Welcome back to another episode of the RAG Report podcast, where I bring you a daily bulletin show where I'm speaking to recruitment owners, leaders, advisors from around the sector to effectively help us all navigate through COVID-19 and what is an unprecedented, difficult time for everyone. Today, I'm joined by a friend of mine, Chris Morrow, who's the founder and managing director of Digitalent, a digital recruitment agency based in the UK and Australia. They're 2.5 years old with 5 staff. They've operated on a 100% remote basis from day one. I know Chris personally through my brother, who lived in Australia for a long time, and they used to play football together, so we've got a bit of history. But I'm excited to know what's been going on, because I think Chris represents, in some ways, he represents a majority of the industry, that sub 10 staff, couple-of-year-old innovative brand. And in other ways, he's totally out there in the fact that he's been working remotely since day one, so he can offer a lot of support on that front. So Chris, amongst the madness, thanks for taking the time, mate.
Such a pleasure, my friend.
Such a good camera you've got and microphone, so I'm excited about this one. I've had a few calls this week where
a few dodgy operators.
Yeah, the podcast's been good, but when you do like a pre-podcast check and you're like, oh wow, I can't. You're like a CCTV camera in 1935. But look, mate. Like I do, I start every call now. What the hell's going on for you? Paint the picture. What's happening?
Wow. Well, first of all, the last 2 weeks have just been obviously the craziest 2 weeks ever in my career, and probably any recruiter's career, and certainly talking to the team, like heads about to fall off all over the place, basically. So it's been crazy. We are, so just to sort of paint a picture of where we're up to. We started the business myself in October 2017. When I moved back from Sydney to the UK, we moved in with the missus' mum and dad at the time. Started the business and basically grew it. Started in Australia 9 months later. Brought on my friend Dylan, who you know well, and he started the Australian side of the business, and I sort of cracked on with the UK and Australia, and we built it up from there. About 6 months ago, we brought on another friend of ours, Alex, into the business, and he hit the ground running, and made a fantastic start. And then we had the opportunity to bring on 2 more individuals that we'd worked with previously as well. A chap called Tom, who's based in Manchester. So it was myself and Tom in the UK side of the business, and a chap called Amy that me and Dylan had worked with previously at a company called People Bank in Sydney. So he came on a week after Tom. So now there's 5 of us. Everything was going fantastically well up until just a couple of weeks ago, and then obviously this whole shitstorm kind of kicked off and exploded in our face a little bit. So since then we've just been really trying to circle the wagons a little bit in terms of, like, the first thing we did was to try and do a review of our business, basically, and essentially do things like minimising, just probably what everyone else would do as a recruitment business owner of our size. Look at the 2 sides of the business in terms of the expenses and the accounts, trying to minimise all the expenses that we could over the short term. We really ramped up credit control, asked most of our clients that were in a position to basically pay immediately. So we managed to call in a lot of the relationships that we had sort of built up over the last couple of years, and thankfully quite a lot of those clients actually agreed to pay immediately, which was awesome. Complete review of like contractor revenue, and we looked into government assistance and what because obviously it's different in the UK and Australia, and then essentially worked out a timeline on how long the business could stay open if the absolute worst happened, and from now until whenever there was no income coming into the business. And that's what I meant by kind of circling the wagon. So we've done that, all worked out where we're up to. And then
everyone involved, or was it just you and Dylan on that?
Myself and Dylan involved initially, but we've been completely open and transparent with the staff, even to the details of, like, figures, how much money's in the bank, the whole shebang, really. And I think that's important, really. Is just our culture is very open and transparent as a business anyway. We talk about things, and I suppose my leadership style and Dylan's leadership style as well is that we're very inclusive, and we ask the guys to come up with plans for projects or ideas. It's not just us dictating to them what we think is right. So they're very involved anyway in terms of coming up with ideas and running with them, which I think is really important, especially like trying to cultivate their leadership skills and stuff as well. So yeah, we had a real honest chat over a couple of sort of video calls, and just try to allay some like the fear, because when all this sort of stuff kicks off, there's a load of feelings of being anxious, and obviously everyone's got different circumstances, mortgages and families and kids and all those things. And I think a lot of it is just trying to be as open, as honest with people as possible to try and allay some of those short-term fears, whilst being, I suppose, brutally honest about what some of the consequences are, maybe over the longer term, if X, Y, and Z happen, so that if certain things do happen further down the track, everyone kind of knows what the next logical step is, really.
Yeah. Well, so how have you seen the difference in the Australian response to the UK response? I think that's something that I interviewed Greg Savage last week. He gave us a bit of an oversight as to what the Aussie market looks like, but we didn't go into too much detail. We talked a lot about 2008 actually, but you're sat here today with two businesses of similar size, surely comparing what's going on both sides. How can you give us some insight there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously completely chalk and cheese in terms of the market and, the types of companies, and even the way that you kind of interact with, candidates and source them and everything like that. It's a real stark difference. There's not as many recruiters saturating the market over in Australia and, all the rest of it. I suppose the biggest differences that I can see is, Australia, first of all, is a couple of weeks behind us in terms of the impact of everything, and they haven't gone into things like full lockdown and everything like that yet, but I'm sure that's probably
Are they doing any self-isolation now?
Yeah, but it's more kind of like the whole social distancing type things. A lot of the businesses are now like work from home, and there was certain businesses in Melbourne and Sydney that were still sort of everyone coming into the office and doing everything. So it's been interesting to watch that from the UK and thinking when are they going to sort of kick into that side of things. So yeah, but the main difference is obviously in the legalities and the way that the government approaches the assistance side of things. Very different sides of it ultimately. So like obviously in the UK we've got the whole job retention scheme and furloughing workers, and the government's offering to pay 80% of their salaries and stuff. There's nothing like that in the Australian market. I think the way that they're approaching it is more from a kind of like tax rebate perspective, because the tax system's a lot different out there. So yeah, but we had sort of quite a few of our clients continuing with roles, so we didn't see the immediate kind of drop off that we maybe had like seen here in the UK of everything just sort of like grinding to a halt. There were still certain types of companies that were continuing, and contractors who were running who were sort of continuing in their role. And then sort of little by little those kind of things have dropped off. So I would say probably 50% of our business in Australia is contractors, and that's been severely affected. So we were doing okay up until basically this morning, and then we lost quite a few contractors this morning, which wasn't the best news.
I mean, I know you personally. I know you're kind of you ooze resilience, right? And you personally and professionally. But how do you deal with that? You talked about it a bit. Tell us that story. What was your day like this morning?
Yeah, like talking about a roller coaster of like all roller coasters. But so I get up, as you know, I get up really super early in the mornings, purely from a selfish perspective, because it's the only time I get to myself really to do what I want to do. I've got 8-month-old twin girls and a 4-year-old little girl at home, and basically from 7 a.m. till like 7 p.m. it's manic, and you don't get any time, especially on a weekend when you're not in the office, basically. So so I get up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning most mornings. I go for a run and a bit of a home workout, which everyone's into, like stealing my thunder on, which I'm like, I've been doing that for years. And yeah, I gets up this morning, and we use Slack for internal communications, like a lot of recruitment businesses. And yeah, we were waiting for one of our clients who were really dragging their heels over the last couple of months to pay an invoice. There was two quite big invoices that were outstanding, and they paid one about a week ago, and we were chasing them for the other one. So as soon as I woke up this morning, I sort of checked the phone, saw that money had gone in, and that was a big relief. So I was on a bit of a high with that one, and because we'd been literally chasing them for like probably 2 or 3 months for that invoice, and feeling good about myself at that point. And this is all at like 5 a.m, by the way, like people like bundling around in the dark. And then I get a message from Dylan to say that a couple of our contractors have been let go, and there's probably I'd probably say about 75 grand worth of revenue. They've just been extended as well. Two of our highest margin contractors have been let go. Yeah, but only like I think it's only like a week.
Not even like a breathing bit where you...
Nah, so everyone just let go immediately. We're attached to the airline industry, basically, so the whole team, like the whole product, agile Scrum team had been let go. So UX designers, developers, testers, like everybody just been dropped on the spot. So I went from there to obviously rock bottom, and then another person, a placement that we'd made over in Australia not so long ago, probably in the last like maybe 4 weeks, and that person had been let go, so we were due a sort of free replacement for that person. So I went further down a little bit, after that, and then we found out we were due for a tax rebate on the Australian side, which may sort of bumped me up a little bit then, and I thought, okay, cool. So I was up and down like a yo-yo. This is all pre 5 a.m. before I'd even gone for a run. Don't even remember being on the run. I just because all this stuff swirling through my head about consequences of that, and obviously the figures we'd worked out as a business in terms of like, how long we could last and where we were up to, and everything like that was obviously, the landscape had changed a little bit. So funnily enough, through all of that, it kind of brought us back to roughly where we were anyway, which was a kind of good thing. And then sort of when I came out to the office this morning, started settling into the UK side of things. We've got 3 invoices outstanding at one of our biggest companies, one of our biggest clients here in the UK, that we've been dealing with the last couple of years, and they were being really not responsive, which is unusual for them. And I sent one more email chasing up these invoices, and the person that I normally deal with, she called me up straight away and said, just to let you know that basically 95% of the staff here have been furloughed. So even the accounts team aren't even there, basically. So I'm like, okay. So that's obviously another kind of like up and down moment where I'm thinking, like what happens if they don't pay that, the invoices and, stuff like that. So yeah, every day seems to be like that at the moment. I'm sure if for, every recruitment business owner of our business of our size, you have those moments in the day-to-day anyway, but it seems like, the last couple of weeks it's been the landscape's just changed like probably a dozen times a day, it seems.
Oh look, I know that feeling, mate. I'm going in a slightly different way going through it. What I'm interested in to know is, what are your teams doing right now? Because I can see, I know what you're doing. You're thinking all day, finance, clients, contractors, payments. Your kind of head is in credit control. You're in everything. But what is your new recruiter in Manchester doing? Like, is there a lot for him to do? How's he being busy, keeping busy? Because I think that's a lot of people thinking.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, in the UK, we've still got a number of roles that we're actually working on that haven't been affected. So not everything is dropped off. So we're lucky that we've got.
What sectors are they in?
What's that? Sorry.
What sector is it in?
One of them's a software business it was based in London, but they've actually got a side of their business over in Hong Kong that's already gone through all of this and come out the other side. So they're actually being really pragmatic about this whole thing and saying like it's not going to last forever, which obviously it won't. And it's quite easy to get caught up in the whole doldrums of the situation. That's why I try not to watch the BBC News channel and repeat. You just sort of like keep it to like a little snippet in the day, otherwise I'd go insane.
It's a killer, isn't it?
Cry myself to sleep. So they've been quite pragmatic. And then we've got another company we're working with who are hiring software developers, and they're kind of like similar to our setup, and they've always been remote working. So they're all working from home, and their clients are actually FTSE 100 type companies that are able to absorb this whole thing. So they're not losing any clients. They probably won't bring any new clients on board, but they're continuing with their recruitment campaign and stuff. So we're kind of, but before this whole thing happened, it's so hard to spot those companies that would be resistant to something like that. So it's not like you could target companies that would survive a pandemic. Do you know what I mean? So Tom's been busy doing all of that sort of stuff, but we did go through quite a bit of work last week in saying, to the guys and as a group that, if we're not doing the norm, which is essentially obviously doing a good job of like, our whole thing about our business and our mission is to deliver the best possible recruitment experience to our customers. But for us, the customers are the clients and the candidates. So we're saying if we can't do that in terms of filling roles, we can still fulfill the mission of the business by adding value as much as possible. So what we did was we split down, done a bit of a kind of brainstorm session, and we split our key, I suppose, customers, if you like, or key groups of people that we want to add value to, into obviously clients and candidates, but also ourselves as internally as a team. And then we sort of brainstormed ideas on how to add as much value to those people as possible. Because my whole thing is, and the guys agree with me, is that if you put yourself in the shoes of the client when all this kicks off, and you've got busy and your recruiters there and stuff, and then all of this sort of stuff kicks off and they just go missing, and you don't hear from them, everything goes quiet, 6 months, everyone's living under a rock, and then everything comes back to it, and all of a sudden they're on the phone, and all of a sudden they want to talk to you and stuff. If I was the client, I'd be thinking, where were you when all of this stuff was happening? Where were you? You weren't looking out for me, you weren't looking out for, watching my back. So I don't want our clients to think that of us, and I wanted us to continue to, wherever possible, drive value in helping people. So some of the ideas I'm happy to kind of share with you. One of them I nicked from Ryan McCabe at Hoxo, which I thought was a great idea from one of their customers on the virtual roundtable thing, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, because we're an Hoxo customer. We're obviously going to be still paying for the software, so it's about how to best utilise what you're already paying for and the technology that you have anyway to drive that value. So we're going to be doing things like that. We were also offering to help our current clients on a pro bono basis for any roles that they have which are business critical, which essentially is outside of our normal scope. So for instance, like we've built this recruitment machine that works phenomenally well, remotely. At the moment, it's like a sort of well-oiled, sort of war machine. It's just sat there, and we want to just get it out in basically into the field. So we're saying to our clients, even if it's like HR or like accountancy or stuff that we would normally never touch, if it's going to dig you out of a hole, we'll do it for you, and we won't charge you for it either. So we've come up with ideas like that, which we're going to be sort of implementing over the next week. And then the normal stuff like market intelligence reports and sharing information, because we're in this sort of like privileged position, I suppose, of understanding markets and the juncture of like how this affects clients and candidates and ourselves as recruiters and everything. And it's about sharing that more openly as well. We're going to be creating Slack channels, which hopefully bring together employers and basically candidates who have been affected by COVID-19 as well, and sort of introduced, not restricted by location, just sort of global channels to sort of try and push people towards, because obviously we're having people reach out to us every day saying that they've lost their job or their contract's gone and everything like that, and try and ramp that up. Another thing that I thought Ryan touched on really well was understanding the why behind the why your clients were actually hiring that role. And we've obviously had, just like everyone else, a lot of roles pulled recently, and it's about revisiting that and just seeing if we can maybe add value, because because we're a vertical specialist, we deal with, well, IT in general, technology, creative and marketing, but a lot of our roles fall within the what you would probably class as an agile scrum team, so software developers or UX designers and things like that. But we deal across all industries, so we deal with airlines and supermarkets and digital agencies, and one of our clients in Australia is a voice experience agency. They do all Alexa stuff and really cool stuff like that. Loads of different software houses, consultancies, really widespread. So, I'm sure that there would be value there in essentially introducing some of those people to each other during this time, not just through the leadership roundtable, but in helping to solve their problems, like why they were actually hiring in the first place. And then keeping up like your daily content. As you know, we're obviously big on content at Digitalent, and I've been sort of trying to sort of impart some of my experience and knowledge onto my guys to get them comfortable with sharing things like video content and engaging with their audience, which potentially they weren't sort of doing before.
I'm going to be just so you know, this week I've rolled out a personal brand webinar at 10:30 every day for my customers. So all my clients and their consultants jumped on, say all of them. We got a good turnout. We had like 20, 30 people a day for a week. And the feedback's been great. So what my next phase is, we're going to roll that out to people that we know, right? So we'll just open it up to LinkedIn. So if your team want to be part of that as well, there'll be no cost to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I genuinely think now there's no better time to invest in getting content out, because we know people are online, we know people are listening, and we're not inundated. We can't say we've got 5 roles on our desk that are 12-hour days. Most people can't say that, so they have to do something, otherwise they're going to fade into the background. Even if you're furloughed, like, there's nothing in that agreement, I don't believe, that says you can't go on LinkedIn and talk about stuff. Like, so yeah, you can't do your job, you're not supposed to work, but you can still keep the lights on your brand.
Share ideas and stuff. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
What's life like for you outside of work? I know, but share with the listeners. What the fuck? Like, you've got such a hectic lifestyle.
Yeah, it seems that way, mate. Yeah, like I said, I mean, my life is pretty hectic at the.
Tire me out just talking about it, but go on.
Yeah. So, what do you mean, like family? Do you want me to talk about family?
Like how do you get through an average day? Even before COVID, it was crazy, but you've got your missus at home, you've got babies, and you've got a 4-year-old.
Well, yeah, I mean, just the last year for us has been very difficult, because one of the main reasons why we moved back from Australia is because the missus' dad was very sick at the time. He had something called a very nasty blood cancer called multiple myeloma, which is an incurable disease. It exists in your blood. It's not a tumour that can be sort of cut out. And he deteriorated over the last basically couple of years. And we made the decision to leave Sydney, leave all of our friends, and obviously the beach and that lifestyle. And Rosie was 2, our oldest daughter was 2 at the time, and we gave it all up and moved back. And that's when I started the business. So when we moved back in with her mum and dad, we moved back in with, we're like a full family of, there's 2 adults, a baby. We flew our cat back over as well, and moved in with 2 old age pensioners, one of which had cancer, and sadly he passed away in November last year, and that was really, really obviously tough to deal with as a family, and but he completely vindicated the decision to come back.
Are you still with her mother, or have you moved out of there?
No, we've got our own. Yeah, so this is my home office, my garden office rather. But we got our own place, moved in there in June last year. Which was awesome. But yeah, and then about 4 weeks after moving in, getting the house all sorted, we got gazumped a few times and during the process. And 4 weeks after we moved into the property, I was in there painting, decorating. I have a clue what I was doing, basically. Putting in 15-hour days on a weekend trying to paint and decorate this bloody house and ballsing it up. And then 4 weeks after that, we had twins. So so that's where my sort of craziness is. It's obviously, family. It's very kids oriented and stuff. So how do I get through every day? To be honest with you, mate, I don't know, because as soon as when you got twins, I don't know what it's like for other twin dads out there, basically, but it's from what I saw, it was virtually impossible. I thought I'd maybe get up and help her with breastfeeding because she was breastfeeding for she still does it now in the night time, but for a long time, I thought I'd be getting up for a couple of weeks, but I was doing it every single night, 7 days a week for 7 months, basically. So it only just literally that whole nighttime thing stopped only like a month or two ago, basically. So and then trying to work as well, and you got the Australian side of the business and the UK side of the business. So when I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning and helping her for an hour breastfeed, because obviously you've got to, like, she's got this big pillow that goes round her and she has to put the babies on this pillow, and then you've got to burp one or else they'll be sick everywhere and all of that sort of stuff. So then you sort of miss out in that sleep. So I was going for I maybe had about 4 or 5 hours sleep a night for 7 months. So I'm probably as close to a Navy SEAL or SAS guy you could imagine without actually being in the special forces, mate.
But you exercise every morning, don't you? You're pretty religious with that. But then you're not even really getting the downtime because your Aussie business is wide open. So do you make sure you don't look at Slack for the first hour of the day or something to give yourself a bit of alone time?
Yeah, absolutely. I try to build in routines. When the twins arrived, it was probably the only time in my life I thought my mental health isn't in a good spot here, and it was basically around sleep deprivation. So a couple of times I came out to this office, and just because I was so tired and exhausted, and I was depressed probably. I've never not had a doctor tell me that, but I thought, I was thinking to myself, this must be what it's like. I came in here pitch black and just cried. I was just crying because I was so exhausted and just not myself. And I thought at that time, I need to change up what I'm kind of doing here. I need to eat pretty good anyway, but eat clean, make sure I'm, as you said, religious about the whole exercise thing, because it's very difficult. You get up at 3:30 in the morning and then you go back to bed at 4:30 in the morning. You got to go to bed for maybe an hour. Trying to get up after that hour of being in bed to then go for a run or work out and stuff, really, really, really hard. It takes a tremendous...
Anywhere internally you can work out, or is it just crack on the kitchen floor or whatever? Have you built a little gym or anything?
Yeah, there's a little gym next door, basically. So just through there, I've got my gymnastic rings and kettlebells and stuff like that. So I'm pretty hardcore when it comes to that sort of stuff. But just because it keeps me in a good spot, keeps my energy, buzzing and stuff like that. So that's kind of the way that
I feel like there can't be many more resilient people than you right now. Like, if you think about what you've been through in the last you've built a business in 2 countries. You've been through what you've been through with your mum, your missus's parents. You've had babies. And now you've got this. I'm so confident you're going to get through this because of knowing you and seeing how you respond to things. And also, I love the fact
that I'll get through it. Yeah.
But so let's just finish with a little bit about the remote working piece, because you're one of the businesses I've always watched and thought, I think that's the future personally. I think I've got the kind of middle ground at Hoxo. We have a hub of probably 15 people could fit in the office, and with our flexible workforce, it's 22 what it was. It's a bit smaller now. But I've recently done 2 days at home, and I'm kind of, after this now, I'm thinking do I ever need a big office? Should I have a smaller hub? But you've always gone for everyone's on their own. And what advice have you got for people that are doing this for the first time and they're completely new to it? How would you basic stuff you can show them?
Yeah, I mean, for us, to be honest, I'd love to sit here and say that it was always in the plan, and that I had some sort of epiphany that was the way it was. It didn't really happen like that for us. I'll give you an example. When we moved back from Sydney, our plan was to live with the in-laws for 6 months and then move to Manchester. And I was going to get a wee work in Manchester and get a team. Because I think as recruiters, when you've grown up that way and you've worked for companies like that, it's just kind of like the automatic default of like, oh, if I'm starting my own business, I need an office. But the way that it worked for us was I started obviously working. I had a similar type of setup at the in-laws' house. It was a garden office. And when I started like doing deals and I started using video interview technology, I was actually delivering a better level of service with not being in the office. Because if I compared that to the way that I was working in Sydney, the way that happens in Sydney is you get a big swanky office. It was overlooking the Harbour Bridge, Sydney Harbour Bridge and stuff, and you'd have to invite all the candidates into the office, interview them, and then you'd have to basically communicate exactly what that person was like from a communication skills, team fit, what their skills and experience is, and then send this A4 document over to the client and just hope that they get it. Whereas I was sitting in a garden office in Southport in northwest of the UK, I was recording these conversations and sending it to clients all over the UK and Europe and in Australia. And they were getting it way, way, way more. And they were taking people on that I maybe didn't think that they would have taken on, and vice versa. So the service was just like phenomenal. And when I started doing it, it just the penny just dropped for me, and I was thinking, I'm getting to spend, because with having a young family in Sydney, I was leaving the house at like 6:30 in the morning. I'd be back in at like 7:30. I'd always sprint home I was getting 2 buses and a train, I remember, in my commute, and I would sprint home from the bus stop, trying to get home to see my little girl. And most nights, probably 4 out of the 5 nights, I would miss her going to bed. So I wouldn't have seen her when I went to, I got up in the morning, and I wouldn't have seen her when, she just missed her when she got to bed. And I'd literally be in tears. I just wanted to give her a cuddle and tell her that I loved her. And I was almost a little bit of a stranger to her on a Saturday and a Sunday. She takes a bit of warming up to you at a certain age, because she's not used to see you. You've not been there for 5 days, in her eyes, even though you sleep in the same houses and stuff. So I was loving it because the productivity was huge. I was doing probably the equivalent of 3 days of Sydney type work in one day from my garden office in the UK. And obviously seeing my family loads more. I was having lunch with my little girl, I was having breakfast and dinner, I was present, I was there, it was just like shit. And I just thought, there's more to it than this. So when we started bringing people on, what we did was, first of all, which I appreciate for people going through this at the moment, it's very difficult to ramp up in a short space of time. But we made sure the plumbing was right in the business from a technology perspective. And we literally put technology at the heart of everything that we do. So, like I said, we use Slack for internal comms. We use Audro for, video interview technology. Basically everything you can think of from a tech perspective. We use JobAdder as a CRM, and it's got a mobile app and stuff. Everything's based around being able to work from anywhere. So one of our core values is recruit from anywhere. And I remember the first time I put it in practice, I actually took my family down to Cornwall. I'd never been in Cornwall a couple of years ago. And I had loads on that week. I remember thinking, like, fuck, if I was basically working for somebody else, I'd be seriously stressed about this, because I'd be checking my phone and like everything, like not knowing what's going on. I remember going down to the beach and spending the morning with my little girl, and she's like, laughing and having a little barbecue and stuff, and then come back, do a couple of video interviews, and on the lunchtime, it was in like a static caravan. And then going back down to the beach and check, having it all on my phone and thinking, this is it. This is the way it's supposed to be, because we don't need, as recruiters, we don't need the big swanky office. And one of the things that's helped us through this short period of like COVID-19 and everything that's happened is that we haven't been carrying that huge expense. We've not been carrying 2 offices. Imagine if we had 2 offices, one in the UK and one in Sydney.
Me, like, I've always had a modest office. Originally, it was in like proper East London in like Bow. Well, originally it was a fucking Regis Business Lounge, £100 a license, and we had like 8
I remember, yeah.
8 people on 2 licenses, which was hilarious. But then it was Bow, East London, and it was like £1,500, and we had like, could get 20 people in it. And then even our office now, it's what is it? Not even double that, just under. It's not expensive, but it's still a cost now that I'm thinking, fuck, like,
yeah,
our business just literally moved into remote working without a problem. And you think, we don't even need that space.
Yeah. But as recruitment business owners, though, that whole remote working thing, it affects everything, not just the expenses, but see, like, for instance, who you can hire into the business. Suddenly it just opens it up into any location. So we wouldn't have been able to get from probably only myself to 5 in that space of time, and hiring, because obviously when you're hiring as a remote team, a distributed team, it's all around trust. You have to hire it. Do I trust this person to crack on and do what they've got to do without ever being able to see them in person? Obviously, you can be on video calls and stuff, but ultimately you have to trust them to be going and getting the job done, and they have to be that specific type of personality. But when you've obviously got the office space, you're restricting it to that locality, commuting distance in, which means you're fighting with, lots of different recruiters in the UK, for the same type of talent. Which, when you open it up, if you look at us, I'm in Southport, Tom's in Manchester, Alex is in Darwin in the Northern Territory, Dylan's in Melbourne, and Ami's in Sydney. So we've never actually been in the same room as a business. Like, but it works like a dream. So yeah, to answer your question, it's all around the technology and how you approach the plumbing in the business, and it's really so important.
I think it takes a certain type of person though to want to do it, and I think after this, so many recruiters and owners will decide, I loved it or I hated it. That'll be the truth.
Oh yeah.
And I think you'll see this like divide of recruitment agencies where there'll be loads that go, do you know what, fuck the office. And then they'll be able to hire all the people that through COVID loved it at home. And then you have all these other people going, I'm keeping the office, and they'll hold on and hire the people that.
I think it depends on not only your personality, but your personal circumstances as well. So for me, the massive driver for me is that I didn't want to miss out on my little girl. So when you have kids, everything changes. You don't want to be commuting. Well, I didn't want. Some people might, because they want to, get away from their family, and like I totally get that, especially now and how hard it's been the last couple of weeks. But it does grind on you, especially as a brand new parent. You sort of think, I'm missing out on such a lot here, and is it worth it? You question everything. You start sizing up everything about your life and making massive changes. So it is your personality and who you are as an individual, but it's also your circumstances as well. And I think a lot of recruiters who are first-time parents or parents of young kids, especially, if they're probably more likely to enjoy the whole remote working thing. But ultimately, as well, one thing you have to mention is you have to be set up for it at home. It's not just about working from home. If I've seen loads of videos of recruiters sat at a kitchen table and there's 5 kids running around, it's just pandemonium. They're not going to enjoy that experience because they've been dropped into it. Whereas for me, I've moved into a house because I actually knew that there was an office space like this that I could make into a garden office. And I leave the house every morning. It's only 14 steps, but I'm still leaving the house to go to the office because it's separate. If I had to work it in the house in a spare bedroom, the noise would be horrendous, and I just wouldn't be able to do it.
I'm in my wife's dressing room. I did a video when I started doing the rag on video, and look, I've got shit around me everywhere now. You can see in the background her clothes and
your boxer shorts in the corner there, mate. I can see.
Not mine, they're my wife's joggers, but honestly, I've got so much shit around me, and it's quite stressful, to be honest. But it's the best we can do right now. Like, we weren't set up for it. When she was she was a PT. She was out all day. The days I worked from home, I used to be in the kitchen, but I was on my own. It was fine. Like, it's cool. Whereas now, I can't get anything done in there. And if I'm recording, but it does make me think. After this, I'd want to have a home office. I'd want to have something set up. Like, I think there'll be a lot of that going on for people in their minds.
It makes you think. You'd be dropped in it there, and you think if anything like this happens again, God forbid, or maybe companies do relax their working from home policies and they change things up. Hopefully a lot of businesses there, especially a lot of bigger more established recruitment businesses will change their ways on that, because a lot of them are a little bit draconian when it comes to
the I would say is the bit you miss is that social, let's go for a pint after work. If you are single and you haven't got kids, and part of going to work is being around
social interaction, and yeah, like especially recruiters, social animals and stuff. But that's why I said about, if you're maybe a little bit younger and you haven't had kids yet, you're not that bothered about homeworking, because you quite enjoy the buzz of the office, the banter and everything. But then when you have kids, that changes, because it's not like you're going to getting smashed on a Tuesday night, because ultimately you've got responsibilities and stuff.
Yeah.
So
well, I haven't got kids, but I've got a little 8-month-old French bulldog who feels like a kid that's never going to grow up. Probably like chewing through the wires in the living room right now. But I like a blend personally. I'm sitting on the fence. I think too much at home will send me loopy. Too much in the office, I don't get enough done. So it's a kind of mix for me. Yeah. Chris, honestly, mate, I think that's about time we've got. But I really enjoyed it, mate. I've wanted to get you on the physical rag at some point. Anyway, and
actual rag.
We'll do it. Yeah, when we're back in the office, I still want to keep the once a week show. But I think the rag report will stay, and it might not be every day, but it'll be a couple of times a week. I've got some ideas for the view of that. But look, you've got bags of knowledge. You're super open and always willing to help. I imagine if anyone reaches out to you after this, you'll give them time, give them a call and whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when I was on the Recruitment Rollercoaster podcast back in the day, like the first 4 or 5 episodes or whatever, I said at the end of that, the same as I'll say now, is that if anyone needs any help or advice, I can help anybody with anything. I'm happy to share my experience and point people in the right direction. So you can look me up on LinkedIn, or I'm on Instagram, chrismorrow.careers, Facebook, same. So yeah, give us a shout, or you can send me an email.
Yeah, well, look, thanks so much, mate. And as I said, I'm rooting for you. I've got no doubt you'll be absolutely fine. And I'm sure people will reach out. So thanks a lot. And
thanks,
guys,
mate.
That is the end of another episode. I'm hoping you're enjoying this show. I'm doing my best to keep you informed of what's going on next week. This week and next week, I've got calls now. I've got people in China, Singapore, the west coast of the US, Dubai, Central Europe, Holland, Belgium. I want to get a global view of how the recruitment industry is coping with the pandemic. So I'm working as hard as I can within reason to keep my own business going, to make sure that we're all learning from this. So do me one favor. I don't ask for any money for this podcast, but I do ask for one fee, is that you share it with at least one person. Send this out, WhatsApp, text, email, on LinkedIn. Get someone else listening. We're nearly at 9,000 listeners. We want to get that up to 10, 12 as fast as we can. If you're on iTunes listening to this as well, give us your ratings and comments, because that will massively push us up the charts. I'll be back again soon. But between now and then, stay safe, stay close to your family, and take care. Speak to you then.